Hey everyone, welcome to this rapid fire explainer. Today we're going to peel back the layers of everyday technology and reveal the non-stop dynamic conversation happening right now between your finger and the screen. I mean, we interact with glowing screens hundreds of times a day, right? And it feels absolutely instantaneous, like the device just intuitively knows what we want. But let's challenge that assumption right out of the gate. Is it actually magic, or is it just a brilliantly disguised measuring device? Well, the reality is beautifully simple. A touchscreen is literally just a sensor layered under glass. That's the whole shebang. It doesn't see your finger, it doesn't think about you, and it certainly doesn't have nerves. It is simply a hidden structure designed to measure physical disturbances in its environment, kind of like how a quiet room notices when a door is suddenly opened. Think of a beautifully finished floor in a grand building. You walk over it, and all you feel is smooth, polished tile. But underneath, there's this complex foundation of plumbing and wiring doing all the quiet work. Touchscreens operate on that exact same principle. The glass is just the surface you touch, but the real mechanical work, the actual sensing, is happening in a hidden layer right beneath it. So what exactly is that hidden plumbing listening for? Depending on the screen, it might be looking for changes in pressure, electrical disturbances from your skin, interrupted light, or even sound waves. But the end goal is always exactly the same: translate physical contact into digital data. Which brings us to a crucial realization. Touchscreens aren't magic, they are pattern detectors. Think of the screen like a receptionist at a super busy office. They don't need your whole life story, right? They just need enough specific information to decide, hey, is this person allowed inside? The screen is doing the exact same thing. It only needs enough of a signal to decide that a valid touch just happened. But as we know, the real world is incredibly messy. Your hand hovers nearby, a rogue drop of water hits the glass, static electricity builds up, maybe a charging cable brushes the edge. The system is constantly being bombarded with these tiny disturbances. So it has to answer a really critical question. Is this a deliberate touch, or is it just background noise? Because detecting a change is really only half the battle. Imagine a microphone in a crowded, noisy room. It's not enough for the mic to just hear sound. It has to successfully isolate a single voice from all that background chatter. Or think of a kitchen smoke detector that has to ignore the steam from your boiling pasta, but absolutely needs to sound the alarm for an actual fire. The touchscreen is doing this exact same filtering job every single millisecond. Which means, fundamentally, touch is a classification problem. The system isn't just some passive switch waiting to be flipped. It is actively sensing that something in its environment changed, and then simultaneously judging whether that change actually counts as a valid touch. Not every disturbance makes the cut. To do this effectively, the screen uses what's essentially an invisible chessboard of sensing dots. When your finger lands on the glass, it doesn't just trigger one single point of truth. Instead, it affects a whole cluster of dots. The screen is constantly reading this entire grid, noticing which dots change, and turning that cluster of signals into a localized map. So it's a pattern, not a pinpoint.
And because it's reading a pattern, it can actually read the handwriting of your finger over time. A touch isn't frozen. It has a start, a middle, and an end. A tap is a brief pattern. A hold stays in place. A drag moves while staying connected. A swipe is just a really fast drag, and a pinch is two patterns moving together. It's just like reading footprints in the sand to figure out the direction and speed of the person who walked by. The screen infers your intent by tracking the shape of the data.
Now, let's address a super common frustration. Why doesn't it work when you have gloves on? Well, remember, the glass isn't the sensor. It's the skin that shapes how the sensing layer underneath receives the signal. If you put on thick winter gloves, your own human sense of touch gets dulled. Similarly, anything between your finger and the hidden sensor, like thick fabric, water, or dirt, weakens the electronic signal. The sensor is still there doing its job, but the signal reaching it is just too messy to read. This brings us to a really critical partnership between two entirely separate systems. The hardware sensor is basically the doorman. It just detects physical changes at the surface. But the device's software, that's the receptionist. It takes that signal from the doorman and decides what it actually means. And this is exactly why software interpretation is everything. You can make the exact same physical two-finger movement on your screen, but in a photo app, the software rules tell it to zoom in. In a map app, that exact same movement might rotate the map. And in a note app, it might do absolutely nothing at all. The physical sensor did the exact same job every single time, but the software translated the meaning entirely differently. So, why do some screens feel totally magical while others feel laggy and terrible? Well, it all boils down to 4 factors of precision. Sensor resolution maps your touch, noise handling ignores static and water, latency dictates the speed, and input design determines if it wants a bare finger or a stylus. That premium feeling of quality you get from a good screen, it's really just the feeling of high clarity across those 4 factors. Imagine you're at a busy shopping mall using one of those self-service kiosks. You're tapping quickly, maybe your hands are a little damp, and the screen just will not register your touch. It's incredibly frustrating, but that frustration is actually revealing the system's limits. The device isn't being stubborn. It's just a system with weak noise handling, struggling to interpret messy signals under extremely imperfect conditions. Now, to give you that feeling of immediate magic, this whole system is running a relentless, lightning-fast loop. Step 1, detect a change at the surface. Step 2, interpret that change as a touch pattern. Step 3, respond visually. And Step 4, instantly update its guess as your finger continues to move. This loop runs dozens of times per second. You aren't seeing a delayed reaction, you're interacting with a live, continuous reading of your movements. If you take away just one thing from this explainer today, let it be this. A touchscreen is in a rapid, continuous conversation with your hand. It's not a light switch. It's a dynamic, ongoing feedback loop. Your finger changes the field, the sensor reads it, the software responds, and your next move changes it all over again. It literally builds meaning from motion. We've moved from seeing a flat piece of glass to understanding a beautifully tuned pattern reader. You now know about the hidden sensors, the noise filtering, and the software translation. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. How does seeing this invisible, logical system under the glass change the way you look at all the smart interfaces in your world? Once you understand the conversation happening right beneath your fingertips, the technology stops being mysterious and starts being something you can truly understand.